What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another Believe in Wizards podcast. I'm Matt Modderno. He's Jahadi White. Jahadi, what's going on, man? How's things?
Matt, my man, what's going on? It's
We made it to
relaxing Cali
Friday.
right now, man, and enjoying some of the sunshine.
There you go. I'm jealous. It's not too bad here in Maryland, but it's still not the Southern California area, so not as nice for sure.
Yeah, I get it. Well, hey, I'd rather be here, so it
I
is
don't
what it
blame you.
is.
I'm headed out there for a couple weeks in about a month, so I'm jealous.
I may follow you there too. I may hop
There
in.
you go.
You got to get an extra large luggage bag. I may hop in there.
Let's do it, man. You're welcome to hang out anytime you want. Before we get going, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside Hard Iced Teas and BetOnline. BetOnline's your number one source for all your summer sports, from MLB, golf, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Get all the latest stats, news, and scores available for your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including your latest team matchups, player props, and odds in just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so this is something we were texting about a little bit here. There's been some reporting about Kyle Kuzma being on the trade market. You know, there was some speculation he would go at the trade deadline. Trade with Dallas was kind of on the table. It ultimately didn't materialize. The Wizards said it was because Kuzma didn't want to go to Dallas. He has since said he didn't think he was on Dallas's timeline for building a championship contender, which I don't really know what that meant, but I've been cool with not trading him. I think you've been cool with not trading him. Championship experience and a solid vet in the locker room isn't something I'd be in a rush to move on for, but let's sort of suspend, hypotheticals here and just say, like, if they are willing to trade him, what kind of return would you want back, Jahadi? Is it just picks? Would you want a pick and a young player? Like any thoughts on what would make it worthwhile for you to actually pull the trigger on a Kuzma trade?
To me, for a Kuzma trade, I'm not looking for a lot of role players.
Okay.
Right. For me, for a Kuzma trade, I'm trying to look for, some primary players. Like I'm looking for something that it can be a leader. So
okay.
I need, for a Kuzma trade, I need some culture, somebody who can help bring culture, some identity, some leadership. So, because you're losing leadership, first of all, right? Yeah. But one thing we always lacked was those three things: culture, identity, and leadership. So I need a formula of whatever combination of players that I'm getting from Kuzma to bring, first of all, those things. So then I would like to take our primary players right now and put them more into a elevated role, like role player, but an elevated role player, right? Yeah. So just imagine if you can, instead of Denny being your primary scorer, you have bring some primary players. Now you have a full. So now instead of having role players, we have a full roster. Our starting five is just all hitters, right? So just imagine if I'm bringing I want to bring a primary scorer in, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I would at least try to do if I'm going to trade Kuzma, because you're losing a lot of points there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to replicate that somewhere, I think, and whether there's young guys on this roster that are able to step up or not, I don't know. I think there's some questions with how much some of these guys can scale up in the next year or two here. I've seen some Wizards fans sort of say that if you draft another wing or forward in this draft, you have to trade Kuzma because there'd be too many wings or forwards for them all to play. And I don't think that's realistic personally. We played Shamet a good amount the first half of the year. We found minutes for Gallinari and Muscala together for the first half of the year. Gino Amarui played a decent amount of minutes. Like, this team is not so talented that you couldn't find minutes for these guys if you wanted to. So to me, like, he's not blocking any of these young guys, especially. Like, I would trade the guy if I thought I could get a return that made the team better now and in the future. But I wouldn't be in a rush to do it because I don't think he's hurting you or any of your young guys' development in the process, if that makes sense.
It does, but I think in reality, Kuzma is at his peak. You're not going to get a better Kuzma next year, right?
That's right.
And we already and what he offers us is great,
Sure.
but we're still the same team we are.
Yep.
Right. So you got the most you can get out of Kuzma. You got the most he can do for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And his highest impact right now still leaves us as a very underachieving team.
I agree.
Right. So now why not try to go for youth? Right. And go for scoring, primary scoring, like a primary scorer with some in youth. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we can now build a team around and somebody with some culture that brings some culture. Because right now, Wizards don't have an identity. Tell me the identity of the Wizards. Yeah, tell me the culture of the team.
That's the biggest one. That's a big problem. Yeah. Who
and
is the coach that's gonna
was Kuzma, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how good or bad of a leader he is. I don't think he's a bad leader, but we don't have that glue leader. You know, we need a glue guy and we need some leadership. And maybe sometime it comes in one, sometime it comes in two different people.
Yeah, again, I'm not anti-trading. I just wouldn't feel pressured to do it. If the deal that you think is the right return isn't on the table right now, then you know that's this like urgency or like fake time sensitivity that people want to put on it. Like I don't buy that. Like Locked On Law said in the chat, you can find minutes for anyone, but you can't have your starting five be 6'9". I would push back on that. I don't see why you couldn't play Kuzma, Denny, Coulibaly, and Zachary Researchet together for some portion of a game. I don't know that you'd want that to be.
I think you could. I just don't think you're going to get a big change.
No, I agree, but I don't think they're looking for a big change. I think they want to be bad again next year because that's a much better draft. And, you know, it's about playing the young guys, and you're going to want to play him you're going to want to move him to free up minutes at some point. I just don't think that you have to do it right away. And there's another question I think here too of, if I'm a contender, when am I going to give up the most to get a player like that back? Is it now before the season? Is it at the trade deadline if somebody goes down with injury or I have a noticeable glaring hole in my roster? Is it when he has less amount of years left on his overall contract? So I don't really know what the sweet spot is. I'm trusting them to find it, but I still just don't buy this like, oh, he blocks Denny from his peak development or he's holding like Coulibaly back. Like they also talk about he's the guy that organizes the one-on-one games after practice. He's the one that says, hey, this is what Rondo and LeBron taught me about film study. Let's go watch film together. Like, I don't think those are inconsequential things either. So I would balance that.
I agree. I think Kuzma offers a lot to the team, but also maybe him being there also stops a lot of evaluation.
Okay. Yeah, could be.
Not in a bad way, but like not evaluation of the current players.
Sure.
I just feel like it could be a little bit of evaluation of the current players. In the end of the day, when he's out there, he's taking most of the shots.
It's hard to know if other guys can scale up while he's in the alpha scorer role, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, you can start evaluating new players you're bringing in, especially if they're like primary players or primary trades. Mm-hmm. Right now, I can start evaluating. This can be, even if we don't want to have a real good season this year, but now I know what works for what we can keep, what we can start building. To me, long as and I like Kuzma. I like the player he is. I always liked him. I've been a Kuzma fan forever, but I just feel like, and while he's there, you really cannot push, go on the building process.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm with you. And with that in mind, there's a certain amount of proposed trades I've got here that I've collected. And some of these tie back to a comment from Sam in the chat here. Contenders would seem to want Kuzma. So those picks wouldn't be great picks, right? I think there is some of that with these trades you'll see. So talk through that a little bit. One of the ones that was thrown out there is Oklahoma City is probably likely to put Josh Giddey on the table. So some combination of the number 12 pick in this year's draft and Josh Giddey for Kyle Kuzma. Is that a kind of return that would interest you at all, Jahadi, getting Giddey back?
Giddey. So what I like about Giddey is versatile. He can create shots for himself. He can play off the ball. He shoot threes. He's got a big body, size.
His shooting really fell off a cliff this year. I think that was probably the main reason they want to trade him. But I'm with you. I think he's a better shooter than we saw this season.
Yeah, he's a good shooter. Just he's going through a slump at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we're just getting a similar player. Like we're getting a similar type. I'm not saying the same, but you already have Corey. You already have Denny. And now you just adding another. A Giddey would be a version of that type, not better. I don't feel like, but a version of that type. And he's not, and he's not offering those primary things. I say we gotta have some coach. We gotta have some leadership. We gotta have some identity. I don't think he would bring that to us, but I mean, he may bring some scoring. I don't think he's the right guy.
There's also some off-court stuff with him that went on this year too, and I think when you've heard Will Dawkins talk about, culture, people, character, you're probably not gonna be in the guy that's even sort of had rumors of some impropriety and stuff with minors and things like that. So whatever the specifics may be, it seems like the NBA has dropped that investigation. Police department have dropped that investigation, but I still I wouldn't even mess with it if I were them. I'd rather want anybody else back from the Thunder. Give me Aaron Wiggins and, a draft pick or whatever, and I would be more willing to listen to that. Another one that's been thrown out there a lot as a potential trade partner for the Wizards is Sacramento. So it would probably look something along the lines of like Harrison Barnes for salary matching, like a Davion Mitchell as a potential young guy that maybe still has some upside left that's untapped. And they have the number 13 pick in this year's draft. Harrison Barnes is a championship winner. Maybe he gives you some amount of, veteran leadership that comes with that as well. Does that seem like something that you would be interested in at all?
I don't, that one's not bad. I like Harrison Barnes for veteran leadership. I like Harrison Barnes because everywhere he goes, he makes a team better. And he's a proven winner. And that is a part of that culture I'm talking about, the leadership I'm talking about. And then D. Mitchell, I like his aggressive play. I like I like his type of point guard.
Yeah, he gets up in dudes.
Yeah, like defensively and offensively. And I feel like him and Poole would work well off each other because they're both aggressive types, right? Aggressive type of points. My thing is that what I'd be concerned about is that's not getting a lot of size.
Yeah, it would be a very small backcourt for sure.
It'd be a very small backcourt. And then Harrison is not that tall, but he's effective.
Yep.
So now I feel like it would be a strong scoring backcourt. I think so. With those two at Poole and Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And Harrison, there's be a lot of leadership. And I feel like he may be that guy who can keep Poole in a good space and give him a path to go down. Mm-hmm. But that's to me, that's probably not the worst one. That's not the worst one I've seen, that option. It's not a bad option.
I think it's definitely closer. It's probably how I would look at it. The one I saw today was Kyle Kuzma to the Knicks for Bojan Bogdanovic. The 24 Dallas's pick that the Knicks own this year, and then the rights to the Wizards draft pick next year. So the Wizards owe a pick to the Knicks. It's unlikely to convey given just their rebuild timeline. If it doesn't convey by 2026, it becomes 2 second-round picks. So that piece isn't as appealing to me. So it'd basically be taking Bojan's salary back and the Dallas pick this year. So that one also not appealing to me.
That's not appealing to me either at all. It wouldn't be something I would even entertain.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So that's not something that's even worth entertaining to me for the Wizards. You just say, nah, that's
the Knicks. That's the Knicks grasping at straws. And the other thing that's been funny is I guess there are betting odds that you can put on where a player is most likely to be traded to, like marquee players. So the Wizards I've seen this week are the favorites to be, or the favorite landing spots according to Vegas for both Josh Giddey and Julius Randle. So if I don't know, the Knicks want to throw us a bunch of stuff to swap Randle for Kuzma and take on Randle's salary, maybe that I would more listen to if there's some picks in the mix. But this particular Knicks trade though, it doesn't make any sense.
I'd be concerned about how Randle's been so injury prone, and I don't know what Randle we're going to get back from that injury. He's been out so long, so that's be a tough one for me.
I think you'd be doing it solely to help them move off the long-term salary at that point. Honestly, like that's for us. There's no value.
I wouldn't want to get rid of Randle. I feel like he's that one missing piece.
Healthy. Yeah.
I mean, think about how tough the Knicks are already.
Yeah.
You bring back Randle, a healthy Randle.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think they silly to try to get rid of him.
I think it's exactly what you said is the injury questions. If they're worried about that longer term being more of a thing, then I could see it. If you think he's going to come back fine, then I think he fits in great with the dudes they had this year. So I'm with you. Then kind of the last name that's been thrown out there again was Dallas again. So it'd be something like
it's always Dallas for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. They seem to love our guys, man. I don't know. We're going to see Daniel Gafford win a title this year, and I'm going to be happy for him, but also sad at the same time.
Right. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've got them winning that series overall too, so that'll be good. But it'd be Tim Hardaway, probably Olivier, Maxence Prosper, and a first-round pick next year. How about that?
I don't like that one either.
Yeah, this is why I'm not in a hurry to trade him. I don't really see a deal where I'm like, yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah, I think the Sacramento trade probably be. I don't think it's enticing.
Yeah,
but it's maybe worth a little consideration. And then the Giddey trade it's not as enticing as Sacramento, but right now with all of those ones that you put on the table, I don't see anyone that's really worth it other than the extra picks you get.
Yeah, like it better be a lottery pick, and if everybody's talking about how weak this year's draft is, if it's 7-8 spots off normal, you're basically getting a pick in the 20s in terms of like equivalent value. So is that all Kuzma's worth to you? Is some dead salary and a late 20s pick, or a mid 20s pick?
If you look at it like that, I just think this draft, like you said, is not the best draft, but I feel like it may be some players that you're just gonna have to wait and see them blossom. I don't think it's gonna be bad players. These are going to be more players that you're going to have to develop.
Yeah, I agree. And then that's what Will Dawkins has said.
These are not instant superstars this year.
Dawkins, every comment he's made this offseason is with that, about having patience. We're drafting through 3, 4, 5 years down the road. He also said on an interview with Shams and those guys this week, we won't skip steps. We have a lot of players that we have confidence in that could be here moving forward. And we have a lot of picks and assets. We're building it the right way, and we won't rush that. So they're not in a hurry. I think they know that they're drafted for the long term too. All right. Let me switch gears a little bit here from a trade perspective. The other thing that's come up recently with the Wizards and potential trades is, should they trade the number 2 pick? And Bleacher Report proposed the Wizards trade the number 2 pick, this year's number 26 pick, and a 2026 second round pick to Atlanta to move up from 2 to 1. Would you give up this year's late first round pick and a second round pick just to move up one spot to ensure you could take whoever your favorite is, whether it's Alex Sarr or Reese Shea or Steph Castle or whoever?
Not this year. Hell no.
Yeah,
I'm
this totally year. Agreement.
I mean, you got to consider the draft this year, and then pretty much either 1 or 2. You may win better with 2 if you get Richard, but I mean, these guys aren't super. I mean, I think they can be developed to be great players and long-term good NBA players. but these aren't the guys that you jump out the window for.
Bingo. That's perfectly said. I'm 100% on board. So the couple other things that were thrown out there, one of our listeners to the show, the Catman of San Marcos, had a couple of these he threw out. So shout out Catman. Would or should the Wizards trade the number 2 pick to Portland for 7 and 14 in this year's draft? So would you trade down if it got you kind of 2 swings in the lottery? And the other kind of question there of another team with 2 lottery picks is San Antonio has 4 and 8. I don't really know what we could give them to. I don't think 2 gets you 4 and 8, but does 2 and 26 get you 4 and 8 back? And would you do that?
I consider San Antonio.
Okay.
Because 4 is not too far from 2.
Yep.
And those players aren't. And 8, you're still gonna get even though it's a unique draft. 4 and 8, you're getting the best out of the draft.
Sure.
I would trade the 2 for 4 and 8.
I think that's more interesting to me than any of the other ones we've talked about so far. The 7 and 14 for Portland is 14's a little too low for me.
You mean 47?
Right, exactly. It's just a little bit too far. If it was like 7 and 10, I'd be like, all right, cool. Yeah. But for some reason, saying the end of the lottery there, I just think it starts to get a little too speculative for me.
4 and 8, I know I can still get 2 top players. And these 2 may end up even better than that one player with that 2.
Yep.
Right? Because it's still top 10. And that top 10 can go either way with all of these players.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. So they're pretty much equal.
Yeah, and having 2 chances at it pretty much helps
I would definitely go for that.
It helps your chances of walking out of this draft with at least one dude that is a dude. And
instead of banking on one guy and putting all my marbles on one guy and hopefully he's a man. Yeah. It may not work in your favor, but those 2 may end up being the best out the draft. So sure. I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm going for 4 and 8. I definitely would. Now, is it an option? Is that something San Antonio's considering?
That's really the question. For them, I think it's, does somebody fall to 2 that really is an appealing fit for them to put next to Wembanyama long term? Do they want one of the other French guys? If Sarr falls, do they think that's their front court of the future together? Or do they want to put Ricochet next to him? Like, I don't know. If I were them, I'd still rather have 4 and 8 also for the same reasons we'd rather have 4 and 8. But there'd probably need to be more in the deal to make that happen. I don't know. Could they be a Kuzma landing spot?
To give up 4 and 8. It's right there. And they rebuilding too. And you got 4 and 8 under Pops.
Yeah.
To me, that's the best. If you got 2 guys coming into the league under Pops, right? It's tough to be in the league 5 years or so, then go under Pops, then to go in the league under Pops, and now you end up being a much better player.
Would you consider? So there's some talk that they want to try to be a playoff team next year, not totally sell out to do it, but add a couple of vets in the process. Would you put Kuzma, San Antonio? Would you put Kuzma in the deal, like Kuzma and 2 to get 4 and 8 back, essentially? And I'm not saying that's the exact bottom line of the trade, but that could be a starting point, I guess.
If I had to, just considering the draft. The draft. Just consider what this particular draft this year. Just such a unique draft and not as good as most drafts for the players. No. But I would trade 2 if I could be a 4 and 8.
Yeah.
Now if I had to throw Kuzma in that deal, I feel like I can negotiate better. I can use Kuzma as a separate negotiation tool than just throw him away in this one.
I like that. Yeah, if I circling back on the Kuzma thing, I would want to pick in next year's draft if I were trading him for anything. I'd take 25 next year before I'd take 10 this year, probably.
Right.
All right, and the other one, Dan Favale of Bleacher Report and the Hardwood Knocks podcast went through and made a list of one player every team should look to try to add this offseason or trade for from another team. So his guy for the Wizards was Jaden Hardy for Dallas. He said he's more of a combo guard than a floor general, but he's provided flashes and flickers of a more patient, more accurate, and less predictable passer. Attach that to his scoring chops, which includes standstill touch and stiffness in traffic, and the 21-year-old is worth further exploration that a team that just started to rebuild like Washington can provide. Trade compensation shouldn't be prohibitive here. Washington has no business dealing its own first, but Hardy doesn't have the mystique to command one. Could second-round assets get it done? Do the Mavs have the stones and pick equity to go after a bigger player on the Wizards like Denny Avdija? Might they still have interest in Kyle Kuzma? Blah, blah, blah. Does somebody like a Jaden Hardy appeal to you if they could get it done for a couple second-round picks?
Yep.
Same.
Definitely. Yeah. I like his toughness.
Yep.
Toughness, scoring. Jaden Hardy reminds me of a much better, and it's my guy, so I don't. It's not. I'm not saying it in a bad way.
Sure.
A much effective scoring version of Jordan Goodwin.
Okay, I like that.
The guy that the Wizards lost that added such a big sense of toughness for us.
Yep.
Right. And so I feel like you can get that back that we really need. Mm-hmm. That's some toughness. That's that culture thing. Plus he can get downhill. He's tough scoring. He's a dog. I feel like we don't have that. We don't have that identity. And I feel like he does add that identity. So if I can find some pieces to add identity without giving up too much, I'm definitely do it.
He was someone I was not high on. Yeah, he's young. That's huge. And he's like playing a couple decent minutes here or there in the playoffs for them right now. He's maybe averaging like 10 a game over the last couple and comes out and gives them a little shot making, like I said, a little toughness. I'd be intrigued at the very least.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good notion from Dan and something that I would have thought about. If I'm Dallas though, he's a guy, a bench player that's got upside on a cheap contract, which they need. So I don't know why they would do that for a couple of seconds.
I see a lot of upside with him.
Yeah, I do too.
And think about it. You get a guy like him getting some playoff minutes. There's some trust there, and you can let him loose, and he's become really find himself in this league. You got something. You get Hardy. You start really filling in these blanks. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of good players. What I feel like we need to be is an unscoutable team. Reason meaning is that every position can put up buckets.
Yeah, it's not just the predictable Kuzma and Poole only, and
that's what the problem is. Let me shut down that. Who do we shut down? Let's shut down Denny and Kuzma and let everybody else beat us.
Yeah.
Right. But now you got those filling those other positions, and now no matter who it is, like you can be a glorified role player now. You can turn your best player to a glorified role player that's going to kill you. Now it's tougher to scout. To me, then you can spread the scoring around. So right now with Kuzma, it's tough to spread the scoring around.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. Just checking in on the chat here a little bit. Shout out to Locked On Law. Shout out to Noel. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to Josue. Appreciate you guys for joining us here. If you're all listening on YouTube, please click that like button for us, the subscribe button, the little bell next to it. You'll get notifications if you want every time there's a new pod. And we always appreciate reviews and things like that on iTunes. So thanks for listening as always. If you want more kind of trade discussion throughout the year here, this was a listener request to run down some trades. So we like to give the people what they want. So if there's more things you'd like to hear about, obviously feel free to reach out and we'll include your stuff. Mentioned some Will Dawkins quotes, just sort of one other one on Jordan Poole. He said he's still young, still developing, and the way he finished the year is what we're expecting moving forward. Jordan was a leader for us, and he's going to continue to be that and a player that's with us moving forward. I don't expect him to say anything different, but nice to hear another data point. Like they seem to like Poole genuinely. Michael Winger's, been very complimentary of him as a dude and a worker, and they seem to get kind of like touched when they talk about Poole. Like there's there's a likability factor between this front office and Poole. So I think he's someone that they're going to give every opportunity to try to be a part of the long-term future here, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I think in reality, they went through a little roller coaster phase with Poole.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's be real. We'd say, we can play politics, but
yep.
For them to have bench Poole and let the coach bench Poole, they had to understand. They had to see what was going on that floor too. Right.
He needed some kind of shake up there.
Right. So they agreed to shake it up, which means he needed it. What I like, though, and maybe my opinion, it's more than like. What I love is the Poole once he had to become a facilitator. When he ran mostly point, when they really, instead of a 2, they put him right at point, and he had to become a primary facilitator. I saw a completely different Poole. I saw a leader. I saw somebody that was running the show. I saw a floor general. I saw that now he took much better shots. So that he actually can really, he got a great peripheral. He can see spots. He can understand where the guy's going. He's starting to feel his other players and so that's when I was like, whoa, okay. Poole has more than just, Shaq and a fool Poole. Right? He got or the talents that he has, right? The things that I know that Poole's going to do, right? Get downhill, step back, shoot 3, okay. Now he has all of these other factors in his game that you never noticed.
Yep.
And it's working better than the game he chose for himself. So if we can multiply on that of what he's doing, right? We can multiply on what he's doing and keep multiplying on that. We'll have a good Poole. Also, we'll have a good point.
Yep.
So okay, we have that one. I don't want to play with that one. We got to keep building on that specific person and that specific style he's playing now.
Sure.
And then we just fill in you got the Denny, right? So you don't want to touch Denny. We just want Denny to get better. We got to have Corey to get better, right? If Corey can be another effective scorer. So now you're saying, all right, Coulibaly, great defender. Great defender. If we can have him grow into somebody who's more aggressive on offense and be tougher. If he can be tough, if we can add a lot of Anthony Edwards defensive style to Coulibaly, because he's already a great defender, but he's not scrappy defender.
Yeah, you got to get up and dog people. When he gets stronger, I think maybe that helps.
Scrappy defender, that's going to pass that culture along. Now you say, all right, now we got to figure out the rest of the pieces.
Could Vucevic be another piece as well?
I was thinking Vucevic can be another piece. I like the way he ended the season. I still
need to see more, right?
I still need to see more.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
that was my literal thought.
Right. He's not guaranteed. Like I'm like the Coulibaly is a guarantee that we can grow with. Denny's a guarantee we can grow with. Poole is a guarantee we can grow with.
I think Vucevic is at least intriguing enough to be in the conversation for next year.
He is, but I need to see him more long term.
For sure.
I always players every time they come in that first 2 or 3 weeks,
especially at the end of the year. Yeah.
But are they that player? Or are they playing their hardest they ever played? What is this? What is his natural playing range? As far as effort wise, as far as this, as far as that. What he did show us that he has a lot of offensive skill, and he has a nice IQ.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Jordan Poole, I think pretty much everyone listening to this would agree that the Jordan Poole, Tyus Jones starting backcourt is not sustainable long term. And I think because of that, a lot of Wizards fans have just sort of assumed that Tyus Jones will not be back in a Wizards jersey in some form or fashion next season. I kind of think that they're going to bring him back, personally. I think they liked Poole coming off the bench to some extent. I think they thought Jones is kind of the adult in the room table setter for some of their young prospects. So could you start him and continue to have Poole be the microwave scorer, second unit guy? But go ahead.
I don't like Poole at 2.
I agree.
That guarantees put Poole. That that's guaranteed to put Poole at 2. Poole is a mess at 2.
I,
Nothing against him.
no, I'm with you.
He's out. He plays more out of control at 2.
Yep.
He has to switch when he's playing point. He switches his mind to a much safer mindset,
and
he looks good at point.
Yep, I think so too.
Tyus is not a 2.
I agree.
So I would have Tyus. If I'm bringing him back, he's going to end up being a backup for Poole.
So all great points, and I agree with literally all of them. I still think that they're going to re-sign him to some kind of deal that makes him a tradable asset for them long term. It would be really tough for him to be the only thing you get back for moving on from Porzingis and then not trade him at the deadline for any sort of assets and then let him walk in free agency for nothing this year. So whether you can sign and trade him outright this summer for something would be interesting, or can you get more for him at next year's deadline? Because anyone trading for Poole at this or trading for Jones at this past deadline, they're basically getting a half-season rental. Whereas now, if you have him under a year or 2-year deal, you're at least getting something that you're locking in. So he wants to be a starter. I don't think there are any places where he's a natural starter. So can you get him on a reasonably friendly deal and then flip him for someone else? I think that's probably the most likely scenario, that he's here for a couple months to start the year. And then you see who needs a point guard at the deadline. So I don't know.
So I don't know how his contract is structured and what other offers he has out there.
Sure.
Because in the end of the day, it's about, this is his contract. This was the last year of his contract. This season was last, right? Correct. So you don't have so do you have any options?
No, he has no player options and they have no team options. So he is totally a free agent.
Okay. Well, yeah, it depends. So it's all about what other interests are out there. What's interests out there? There's not.
I don't think they're going to have a lot of bidders, so they could get him
back up because he's still a good backup.
Yep.
And he's very efficient. He probably he's I think most highest efficient scorer.
Oh yeah, they love to talk about his assist to turnover ratio too. That's like the one good stat the PR department loves to share.
Right. So yeah, if I'm an analytics guy, he's perfect for me. So
he may want to be a starter somewhere, Jahadi, but if he's looking around and that doesn't exist, if you can say, well, I might not start in Washington moving forward, but I'm still going to get the biggest role off the bench there of anywhere else, is that still appealing to a guy like him?
No. Reason being is once you go from being a starter to a bench, your value drops.
Okay.
Especially when you've been in the league as long as he has. Now, your negotiations from an agent perspective is, all right, I can't demand as much because, first thing the GM gonna say, well, he's a bench player. He's not a starter. So you can't get starter level pay for, coming somewhere else. So, it messes up your value in your negotiation process. It messes up your negotiation. But if the Wizards is his best offer, and his best chance to get paid, you got to take what's on the table.
If he gets some kind of 3-year deal for 15 and change a year or whatever, I don't think he's getting better than that anywhere else.
I don't think so either.
And no one else is going to give him the kind of minutes he would probably command here either. So that's kind of why I think he'll end up back here. And I think for them, it's locking down a guy like that on a reasonable deal and then trying to flip him downstream. For them, it's accumulate every asset you can. We didn't trade him at the deadline next year. Got to do it for something. That's my take. I could be wrong. He could sign for somewhere else.
I'm going to see it the same way. Yeah. I don't think it's bad for the Wizards to get him again.
Right. Exactly. If you can get something out of it, it's better than letting him go for nothing. And it's not like you're fighting to use the salary cap on anybody else right now. So asset accumulation should be the number one objective for them as a front office, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. A couple other little just notes here before we start to wrap this thing up. The Athletic reported that the Wizards have made some changes in their front office this spring. They've brought in Michael Hartman to run their strategy and analytics group. There are more hires expected this offseason. As we mentioned, a lot of the coaching staff and things like that were moved on from. Hartman had been the senior director of basketball operations for the Pelicans. I don't know anything about this guy personally, but hey, strategy and analytics sound like something the Wizards have not particularly given its due course to over the last couple of years. So seeing them focus more on that sounds just fine to me.
I'm a player, so
yeah, I hear
the
it.
word analytics to me just seems like Microsoft is thinking for taking away the instinct of what like the eye of a natural player, and I do feel like it's needed. If it wasn't, and then analytics to me is killing the game because it's killing the mid range.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bring the mid range back. It's a nice shot,
You see it come the playoffs. Somebody on your team has to be able to hit it. I mean,
yeah, but you see who's taking the mid ranges.
Yeah,
it's your stars.
That's right. The Jason Tatums of the world are the ones.
Jason Tatums of the world only get to shoot the mid range.
Right. You
better not come off the bench and shoot a mid range.
Yeah. The Wizards do not have Jason Tatum on their team, so nobody should be shooting mid range shots.
Right. So I gotta love and hate with analytics. I know it's needed now. It does show some major factors that you would never would be able to even notice before.
Sure.
Right. I don't know how useful it is with everything. Some things come down to just the players being the player, right, and the coaches being the coach. So, great. We got a new analytics guy. What you want me to say?
We'll see. We'll see if anything comes of it. I think, like you said, it's a good way to identify certain trends and.
Right. But I'm sure. I don't think. We always had an analytics department there anyway, right?
By all accounts, they sort of prioritized it less than most of the teams in the league. So seeing them kind of at least catch up to the times here a little bit, I don't think is a bad thing. I also don't want us to be beholden to that only. So kind of the combination of the two, I think is important. But we'll see what that actually means and how much they listen to them. They just had kind of the father of basketball analytics on the coaching staff the last couple of years in Dean Oliver, and supposedly didn't listen to the guy. So,
analytics is, I don't feel like analytics is for the coach as much as it's for the GM or for the owner. It's for the owner, the guy who comes in, owns a tech team, and you can't talk basketball to him.
Yeah.
They talk basketball talk because he doesn't understand it. But an analytics guy can come in and show him all, and he understands numbers, and so that's like it's speaking his language.
Yeah.
So he sees from his perspective, we got to run it more from a tech perspective than we do from a actual natural instinctual basketball perspective. And I think that's why the analytics really, really became popular. Other than Golden State Warriors. They use analytics more than anything, and then they started winning championships, and then it's a copycat league.
I think unlike baseball, you can't do the money ball approach. Like, okay, well, we need 3-point shooting. Let's add a couple 3-point shooters that just do, I do think it's helpful for, hey, Jordan Poole, you were much more effective, shooting from the right wing than the left corner. So we want to get you more shots on the right wing. Like those things make sense to me. It's
exactly. It's needed, and it is needed.
Yeah, it's everything in moderation is always a good thing. I think. Speaking of coaching stuff, the Wizards still do not have a coach, and the Cleveland Cavaliers just parted ways with JB Bickerstaff, obviously another former coach who has some family ties to the Wizards organization. First of all, a little surprised that JB lost his job, considering that they've been pretty successful. But there's all these leaked reports that the players didn't believe in him, and Donovan Mitchell was out and Garland was out. And so once you lose the locker room, it's tough, I guess. But there's a certain amount of Wizards fans that would like to see JB Bickerstaff get the Wizards head coaching job. Any thoughts on that, or would you kind of stick with someone like Keith?
I like JB a lot. Reason is, when I first got to the Wizards, his father was my coach, and father gave me opportunity before I got any opportunity. He was. Yeah. I was going out there committing 4 fouls real fast, and kept him go back in the next game. So, and most coaches wouldn't have done that for me.
Sure.
So, Bernie holds a special place, for me. And then when I went to Charlotte, JB was on the coaching staff as well. Gotcha. So, and I really got to know JB when I played for Charlotte. And JB is a basketball mind. He understands the game just as much as his father. He relates to the players, and I think he didn't do a bad job in Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Didn't do a bad job in Cleveland. I mean, you brought them to the playoffs. They did a well job. I don't know. It's just I don't know I don't know what Cleveland expects.
Yeah,
I think Cleveland had a good team. They did not have a championship team.
Right, exactly. I think that's the players trying to scapegoat somebody other than themselves. We didn't believe in him.
Cleveland went as far as Cleveland should have gone.
I agree with you.
So as a coach, I took this team as far as it can go. It didn't go any less than it could go.
Sure.
Right? Any expectation for it to go past where it could is fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So he did his job to perfection. Now, you know how I hear that it's about, if they're going to try to re-sign Donovan Mitchell, then, you got to make him happy.
Right.
And I think it was a little friction. It was a lot of friction between their relationship.
It's a stars league at the end of the day. We saw it with Giannis and Adrian Griffin. So it's stuff. I think the reason why it maybe wouldn't be a good fit, that there's going to be some obvious parallels to Wes Unseld Jr. Oh, he's just getting the job because his dad worked here. I think it's disrespectful because he's a guy that actually has a head coaching track record of being pretty successful. So he's had more success than any Wizards coach over the last decade. So I think that's kind of unfair, but it's the comparison people would make. He would get Wes Unseld Jr. comps all day while they're losing, even though the team is trying to lose. And if I'm him, I don't know. I think I could find somewhere better to go, honestly.
Well, also with this new front office they have, it seems like they're trying to pretty much change everything that was connected to the old regime.
Exactly.
So I don't see them considering him just because it's working against exactly what they're trying to do. Right?
It's a bad narrative for them.
Yeah, it'd be counterproductive of their mission.
Yep, I agree. Andre said in the chat, more proven than Unseld. I agree. He wasn't an assistant or something that you're promoting up. This is a guy that's won in the NBA and has playoff experience.
I agree.
He would help. It's just this is probably not the place. Yeah. Speaking of Wes Unseld Jr., he's agreed to join the Chicago Bulls as Billy Donovan's top assistant. And we wish him the best of luck. And I hope he kills it there. And, he'll do great, I'm sure.
He was the last of Mohegans.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
That guy clean. There's no one left under the Abe Poland umbrella, is it?
It doesn't seem like it. I am a little bit curious if John Thompson III is still around in some way, shape, or form. So
I think he's around, but I wouldn't. Do you consider that?
Not really. Yeah, I mean he's been there for probably 7 or 8 years at this point, but it's not really like an active basketball.
He's too connected to the city.
Exactly.
You gotta have in the end of the day, you gotta have somebody who has a pulse on the town.
Yep, for sure.
Right.
And he's just someone I just hadn't heard them mention at all in quite a while. We hear about Schlenk and Winger and Dawkins, but not JT3. So be interesting. Last one I want to throw out here. Shout out my guy Dan over at Bleacher Report again. Dan Favali wrote an article about who are the most likely future Hall of Famers on every team's current roster. So it's not, do you think this person will be a Hall of Famer? But if you have to pick the person on the Wizards with the highest, do you think Coulibaly is probably the most likely future Hall of Famer on the Wizards, or would you go with somebody else?
No.
Okay.
Reason being is, like Bill Russell said, at the end of the day, the game is all about buckets.
Yeah.
So that dude start shooting some buckets, right? I think he's going to be NBA Hall of Fame or Wizards Hall of Fame.
They said NBA Hall of Famer. I think even just being a Wizards Hall of Famer would be a good step in the right direction for them to have somebody.
I think the person who's close to being, who has the closest chance to be a Hall of Famer, it's Poole.
Poole.
I know you want me to say, I know everybody thinking Denny. But I just feel like Denny's going to be one of those guys going to always stay overlooked, no matter how great he is.
I feel you.
You know, unless he ends up playing on he's going to have to play on an amazing team. You know, sometimes guys just go under the radar, no matter how great they are. And I just feel like Denny may end up being one of those guys.
Poole's flashier. He's got a ring already.
Flashier.
Score a lot of points.
If he learned, Poole has a lot to him, to his game. If he learned certain things and understand how this NBA works and see it as a business and really develop all of what he can do and develop his IQ, he could be a Kyrie type.
I mean, somebody like I don't know, like Lou Williams or somebody as like a multi-time sixth man of the year might make the Hall of Fame for that role. Could Poole do that on a couple championship teams and sneak in? I'm kind of with you. I mean, I think that's still probably pretty unlikely. I think I would say Coulibaly just because I can almost likely rule out everybody else, and we haven't seen enough there to know that he couldn't turn.
Why would you say Coulibaly?
Just because he's the most sort of open-ended. Yeah, it's. We don't know, you know, he could turn into something maybe, but you know, it's probably whoever they draft next year. I think is the guy with the most likelihood of ending up a Hall of Famer. You can get Cooper Flagg or AJ DeBonsa. Those are probably the prime candidates. But it's funny just scrolling through most of the teams in the league though. There's at least somebody you're like, okay, maybe I could see it with this person, and then they went alphabetical order, so you get to Washington at the end. It's like, well, it's probably not Coulibaly. It's probably not Poole. It's probably not Denny. So who does that leave? You know, just not a great answer.
Right now, those are the only three you got to go off of.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if I take those three, the one who should be is Denny. But the reason I say Poole because he has so much to his game.
Right.
He's the most versatile player you have.
Could Denny? I don't know.
More, so as far as his package.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a cheap answer here, but I think if somebody like Denny could make a gold medal run in the Olympics with somebody like the Israeli, national team, could he get in for his achievements outside of the NBA? Like maybe that's his best bet at Hall of Famer or someone like that. But,
yeah, true.
Last one here, just real quick. I was announced earlier this week that Bilal Coulibaly has signed with Jordan Brand. I think that's just like a really cool thing for any young guy to be able to say, like, you're like Michael Jordan has chosen you personally to represent, his brand. So I think that's kind of a cool moment for him.
Well, I think a lot of Jordan Brand promotions this year, have you noticed all summer, has mostly taken place in France.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't seen that.
All of their big
for the Olympics
have taken place in France a lot. So it makes sense for them to sign Coulibaly. They probably needed a young up-and-coming French guy. They didn't get Wemby. Nike got Wemby. So I think it's now really and think about it. What's the top two draft picks this year? Well, they're both French guys, right?
Yep. And there's one more coming next year that's going to Nolan Traore.
It's something in the water in France. Remember when everybody was going to Canada to get the players?
Exactly.
I think now everybody's about to go to France to get the players. So it's probably best for Nike to start saying, and then look, man, in the end of the day, these European players are taking over now. These foreign players are now taking over more. They're becoming better players than U.S. players.
Yep. So
for me to grab a guy from France and a young guy who has a crazy upside, crazy potential as a Jordan Brand guy, that's smart. And you got it tied to where they had a lot of this summer. A lot of they had games over in France. A lot that they played. So you had Zion over there. You had Tatum over there. You had all the Jordan Brand guys in France, and they did commercials from over France. And there's a lot of French speaking in the commercial. So they believe you me, it's definitely a connection with all this.
I think probably guys I've heard from, do interviews and stuff, especially from your generation of player, like that was like the ultimate sign of like respect was to be like a Jordan brand athlete. Like that was a huge moment. I don't know. Does it still carry the same cachet for players this age, you think?
Yeah, because Jordan brand means he picks you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially back in our day, when you become a Jordan brand player, he's hand selected you.
It's like being knighted at that point, you know.
Hand selected Chris Paul, hand selected Richard Hamilton, hand
Carmelo,
selected all Jordan brand guys.
Mm-hmm.
He personally likes something in the player.
Yeah.
So, which means for Coulibaly, Jordan personally likes something in that player.
Mm-hmm. And Rui Hachimura, they added while he was here as well for, also help get the Japanese market too. So like, I think that's smart for them to branch out from a marketing perspective for all the reasons you're saying. So cool for Coulibaly. I'm going to keep my eye out for the Coulibaly shoe line coming out here in the next couple of years here, maybe.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, John, I think that's all I got. Anything you want to close with or anything?
No, man. Just enjoy the time.
All right. Appreciate you. Enjoy that Cali weather for us. I think we're all jealous here as it's already getting hot and muggy in the DMV.
I'll make sure to rub it in.
Yeah, exactly. But take a lot of pictures for us.
All right.
All right, everybody. You know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe. We are brought to you by betonline.ag, and we will catch you all next time.
Peace.